Welcome to the Start Sit Show Thursday. I'm your host, Andrew Erickson. I'm on Twitter at Andrew Erickson _. I am from Pro Football Focus, PFF. You can find all my work over at pff.com. You can also find me on Twitter at Andrew Erickson _. Again, TikTok as well at Andrew Erickson _. So yeah, guys, excited to be on for another Thursday, week 8, another big slate of games. Only have 2 teams on bye week with the Raiders and the Ravens off. So there are some tight end needy teams out there. So we will talk about some tight ends, some deeper options that you can potentially play this week. But first, as always, we want to hit the news and notes from around the league. Giants players, we don't know who's playing in this game. Yeah, it's on Monday night. Right now, we have Galladay sidelined, Tony sidelined, Daniel Jones. I feel bad for this guy. Like, that's his issue his entire career. It seems like he just never has guys that are healthy to play with. And when he has guys, he plays well. So Daniel Jones, I think, is still a viable streaming option. Hopefully he gets some guys back, but the Chiefs defense has just been absolutely so terrible this year. I still think that Daniel Jones is still a legitimate starting caliber fantasy quarterback because he runs. So that's an advantage that not a lot of quarterbacks have, and it makes up for a lack of efficiency he has through the air. It really is the cheat code. You know, that's why we're seeing guys like Jalen Hurts just always finish as a top 12 quarterback every single week. Every single week. 10 games he's played as a starter. Every single week, he's finished as a top 12 quarterback, Jalen Hurts. Fun fact of the day, water cooler fact, when Jalen Hurts, you're talking about Jalen Hurts with coworkers, hey, never finished outside the top 12 quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts, our quarterback in fantasy land. We love him more than the real NFL does, of course. So other news and notes of Giants, I would say Darius Slayton is someone that you want to pick up if you are waiting on a Giants receiver. You need a streaming option, but I think Sterling Shepard's probably the most likely to actually play, and he's in a good spot. Again, the Chiefs' defense has not been great this year, especially against slot receivers. So he was very close to playing last week, so I would expect him to suit up. If he can't go, Darius Slayton would be the next guy to put in. Dante Pettis, kind of in that order of receivers. Devontae Booker is still fine. I don't think Barkley's going to play. I really doubt that he's going to play, 2 weeks after his ankle injury. So Booker is still a fine option. RB2 back end. I mean, if you have Booker, you kind of know that you're playing him already. He's kind of you just kind of slot him in. Luckily, he has not fallen into, the Mike Davis tier where he's just totally fallen off the face of the earth and is basically no longer in play. Mike Davis is sit this week for me because You can't use him. He had 4 touches last week. He'd been averaging 15 touches, at least 15 touches per game over the past 6 weeks. And yeah, Cordero Patterson has relegated him to backup duties, handcuff duties. It just, you can't use him anymore. It's really weird, but Patterson has taken it's CPAT's world, and we're just living in it. Football player Cordero Patterson, as he likes to refer to himself as. DeAndre Hopkins for tonight's game. I guess we'll talk about something tonight. So tonight's game is kind of going to be a little bit wild. We have Aaron Rodgers without Devontae Adams, without Allen Lazard, and DeAndre Hopkins has not been practicing, but Adam Schefter reports that he's expected to play in this game. I don't really know what's up with Hopkins. He's been banged up a little bit. He dealt with a rib injury during the start of the season. His targets have not nearly been the same. I've been ranking DeAndre Hopkins outside my top 12 wide receivers every single week since the first injury kind of popped up. And that's kind of where he's been finishing. He's still a guy you're starting, and he's starting to see a little bit more targets, but a lot of it came without Max Williams in the offense. Now they have Zach Ertz. They just have a ton of bodies in this offense that they feel comfortable spreading the ball out to. And why wouldn't you? You have a lot of good weapons. So I think it makes a lot of sense that Arizona's winning games. This is a winning formula. So there's no reason for Cliff Kingsbury to tell Kyle, just keep jamming it into Hopkins, because that's what they did last year, and they weren't a good team. Now they're undefeated because they are spreading the wealth out. They're getting everybody involved. And where it sucks for fantasy football, it's good for real life football. And unfortunately, Cliff Kingsbury doesn't really care about our fantasy teams, even though their social media team tells us when not to start Chase Edmonds. Start Chase Edmonds this week. I am telling you that. You don't need their social media account to tell you. Chase Edmonds, absolutely love him in this matchup tonight. So if you have him, you are definitely firing him up. But Hopkins, he's playing. He's going to be in your active lineup. The Packers still don't have their top 2 cornerbacks. Their defense is not good. Washington football team Taylor Heineke could have had a monster fantasy game if, number one, they didn't call back his rushing touchdown, and number two, if Terry McLaurin just caught a ball that basically hit him in the face mask as he was going into the end zone. So I still think that this is a really good spot for all of these Arizona pass catchers. Kirk, AJ Green, Rondale Moore. I would rank them in order: AJ Green, Christian Kirk, and Rondale Moore. The Packers have actually been really good against slot receivers this year. It's not sure if it's a super trend, but AJ Green plays on the outside. AJ Green runs more routes than Kirk, and AJ Green is underrated. I was not high on AJ Green entering the year, but he's underrated, and we got to just start to put some respect on him. That he just last year was kind of a fluke coming back from an injury. He's healthy now, and he looks a lot better than he looked last year. So I think AJ Green's actually the guy I would go to. She took the under on Christian Kirk receptions prop at 4. I took the under on that, so I'm team AJ Green this week. We will see how things play, but they're all kind of wide receiver 3s because it really could be any of them. But just based on the defense that Green Bay runs, I would lean towards Green as the ancillary receiver I would target, but it really could be any of them. Yes, Sterling Shepard returned to practice on Thursday, so yes, I would say that he's the best shot of playing. Michael Gallup, taking it slow in hopes to return for Week 8 against the Vikings. Not exactly inspiring news. I would not be waiting on Michael Gallup. It's been tricky with these guys coming back from this short-term IR. Trying to figure out what you would do. So you're not relying on Michael Gallup. We don't know what his targets were going to be like anyway. It's he's going to take back over the Cedric Wilson role. It's not like you were trying to play Cedric Wilson this week. So unless you're need to play Michael Gallup, then I would say pick up Cedric Wilson, but I don't think you're playing either of those guys. Jarvis Landry said he will sure be able to play in Week 8 against the Steelers. That's great. Not sure I really want to play him that much. Yeah, he led the team in targets despite not having a ton of routes run. I mean, yeah, I think Landry's better start than OBJ at this point. We all don't know the quarterback. I mean, if it's Baker Mayfield, I think it's even better. Landry has chemistry with Baker Mayfield, so I'm ranking Jarvis Landry over Odell Beckham this week. But yeah, he's a wide receiver 3 option, but I'm not super thrilled about him. Don't know how healthy he is. This Browns Steelers game I don't really like a lot. They may just run the football. We'll see what happens. But Landry would be my preferred option over OBJ. Willie Snead signs the Panthers practice squad. Wild news in Carolina. Willie Snead is back. Absolutely ridiculous. Nothing to really report there. Maybe that's concerned about Terrace Marshall and how long he's going to take to come back, from his concussion. Mark Ingram will absolutely play, according to Sean Payton. I think that I don't really know what it does for Mark Ingram. The Saints offense really hasn't been this juggernaut. It really only affects Kamara, where they're going to take off Kamara running 1 billion carries a game, and we're going to see him go under 20 carries per game now. Like, he's been over 20 carries a lot of his games so far this year. I think they're starting to realize, like, this guy's going to break down. We need to get him some insurance, get Mark Ingram in here, run Mark Ingram in between the tackles. So maybe you tick down Kamara an inch or two. His rushing yards are going to be there, but we've seen the receiving production be there the last couple of weeks, which is great, and that's probably what they're going to do. So Kamara, you're not worried. Tough matchup this week, but Tampa Bay, it just basically means they're going to throw the ball. Do not start Mark Ingram. Tampa Bay is a no-go, especially for a guy that's dusty, like old Mark Ingram. Let's see. Brandon Ayuk just continues to be in and out the doghouse. It's I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on with Kyle Shanahan and Ayuk. This is like a sick game to him. It has to be. Like, every team, he just goes on the podium and talks about this guy. It's like, I don't know if I've heard more of a coach talk about a player that's like not playing well than Kyle Shanahan about Brandon Ayuk. Maybe it's oversaturated by people in the fantasy industry because we just like don't understand why Brandon Ayuk isn't playing well, despite the fact that maybe he's just not as good as we thought he was. I don't know. But you're not playing Brandon Ayuk right now. Like, he has to have like a decent game first before you can even put him in your lineup. So I would not be concerned about using Brandon Ayuk. You should not using him. Mike Williams is practicing in full week 8 against the Patriots. There's no one that can cover Mike Williams on the Patriots. Let me tell you that. I am a Patriots follower, fan, and I know for a fact that no one on the team can cover him. So you're starting Mike Williams pretty much no matter what. I know that we talked about it on the PFF Fantasy Football, on the FantasyPros fantasy podcast, myself, Liz Loza, and Joe Pisapia. We talked about the Chargers and how they're probably going to the Patriots are probably going to try to shut down Keenan Allen based on Liz Loza's conversation with Austin Eckler. So she has a close relationship with him. So that just comes some insider information. Keenan Allen maybe not having a super high ceiling on this game, probably more of a Mike Williams type of game for the Los Angeles Chargers. So you're going to feel good about Mike Williams. J.J. Watt needs season-ending surgery. That's not great for the Cardinals defense, but they are getting Chandler Jones back, so it doesn't make too big of a difference. But it sucks for J.J. Watt, as a guy that had been playing pretty well as an interior graded defender, was playing on a good team for the first time like ever. So it's just unfortunate that he is going to be sidelined for the rest of the season. So that's really it for news and notes. So nothing too significant. Just keep an eye on those Giants guys. No Devontae and no Alan Lazard tonight. No news yet on MVS, Marquez Valdes-Scantling. I will talk about him, but he's not been activated yet to my knowledge, so we'll see. But until then, let's get into some of these start-sit questions, and then we'll talk about some of my start and sits, and then we will be off. So let's get it going. Okay, so first question here. So Goncala H9 _H9. Start one. Actually, you know what? Before I get into this question, we're gonna have a sip of water because the last time my throat got really dry, it was a big problem. Okay, now that I am quenched of thirst, we can dive in. All right, Goncala _H9. Start one. Full point PPR. Javonte versus Michael Carter. I like that question. Let me check the ranks here. I know Michael Carter I'm not like super high on or super excited for. So I would probably go Javonte here. I mean, Michael Carter, you know what? I'll switch my mind. I'm changing my mind. I'm slightly moving up Michael Carter a little bit of my ranking. I'm not like super excited to play him, but I mean, Javonte, I just don't know what. No, I'm going Javonte. I'm coming back to it. Javonte, following the rankings. And the reason I'm saying it's very close. Both guys saw ceilings in the passing game last week. But Javonte, I think, is the more explosive back of the two. He saw a lot of receptions last week as well. Football team has not been great on defense. The Bengals defense is actually probably better. I also don't know how the split's going to take up between Michael Carter and Ty Johnson with him coming back. So it's close, but I will lean towards Javonte. I just don't know what. I mean, he has a better chance of scoring more points. I don't know how many points the Jets are going to score. So I would go with Javonte. It's very close, though. Not like super thrilled about necessarily either guy. Never had it so good. Smiley face. Wide receivers, Coopers or Williams. I'm going to go with Mike Williams. I just kind of talked about him. Running backs, Patterson or Elijah Mitchell. I'm going to go with Cordero Patterson there. 16 touches last week. Elijah Mitchell just doesn't have any work in the passing game. Like, that's his big flaw, I would say. Not to say he can't catch passes, but something that's holding him back from potentially reaching his ceiling. Bipolar Garage. Trade Keenan Allen for Saquon Barkley. Yeah, I would do that. I mean, Keenan Allen right now he's getting a lot of targets, but he's not being a true difference maker. So I think that you can make way without necessarily having him on your roster. Whereas Saquon, okay, you're shooting for the moon. Like the Giants have a really easy schedule the rest of the way. He just got to get healthy. Like that's what we need from him. We need him to get healthy. And I just don't know. I mean, I'm not a doctor, but the ankle injury, it was such a freak injury. He didn't even happen like he's playing like actual football. He just like literally just trips. So it's unfortunate, but yeah, I would make that trade. Jim P, what's going on, Andrew? Waddle, Damian Harris, or Shep for the flex half point PPR. I'm going Damian Harris. Like if you're not starting Damian Harris against the Los Angeles Chargers, I don't know what you're doing. The Chargers are this run funnel defense. Brandon Staley is basically just begging teams to run the football on him. Like he doesn't stack the box, and teams do it. And we saw the Ravens offense basically do nothing through the air and have guys like Le'Veon Bell, Devontae Freeman, and Latavius Murray all have productive fantasy games because they're playing the Chargers. So, yeah, I think that Damian Harris makes a ton of sense in this matchup. J.O., Collins or Moss? PPR, I'm going to go with Zach Moss. I think that he's a better chance of scoring in this game. Seattle and Jacksonville are just like, it's kind of like a gross, like maybe it's like a shootout game, which is a gross game overall. Not too excited about it. Could just be two bad offenses going against two bad defenses. It's, we expect there to be points, but it may just be gross. Whereas Zach Moss plays on the best offense in the NFL, in my opinion, or one of the best offenses, probably top three, Bills, Tampa Bay. Zach Moss has touchdown equity. The Dolphins are just not good in defense. They haven't been good this year, so I will go with Zach Moss. Kevin Rudolph, almost said Kyle Rudolph. Kevin Rudolph, Booker or Edmonds, full point PPR. Edmonds, oh man, you got to start Chase Edmonds, guys. Chase Edmonds. Green Bay, 31st in explosive run rate allowed this season. Chase Edmonds, 5.8 yards per carry. I've been hammering his rushing prop over everywhere that I can find it. It opened at like 36.5 rushing yards, and I was laughing to the bank as I took out a loan to bet all this money on Chase Edmonds. Not really, but yeah, it's up to like 43 yards. I still think the over is good. But yeah, I think Edmonds had a season-high snap share last week, season-high in touches or in terms of carries. So I think that he's in a great spot. We definitely want to play a lot of Chase Edmonds tonight. A lot of upside in his matchup. SPFD Chess. What does that even stand for? I don't know. Randall Cobb or Julio Jones. Oh my God. If we really come to this now, I'm going Julio Jones. Like, yeah, I think Cobb has a good chance for targets, but I would not overthink this one. Really, what's going to happen with Devontae Adams out, may as well just kind of talk about this, is we're going to see more concentrated targets between Aaron Jones, potentially A.J. Dillon, potentially Robert Tonyan, and Lazard/Cobb may see more or less targets. I don't think that both of them are going to do really well. And talking about MVS and Cobb, Cobb could just put out like 8 targets, 5 catches for 40 yards. It's like 9 points. It's like, okay, great. Like, is that great? Like, I don't know how I feel about that. So yeah, I'll go with Julio Jones there. Way more upside. 13th in yards per route run this year. Colts defense has been really inefficient at stopping wide receivers. 31st in touchdown rate, allowed 26th in yards per target. Man, I just like memorize this stuff, guys. I swear to God, I'm not reading off anything. It's all up in my freaking brain just from all of the work I've done throughout this week. So shout out to me for just, having a great memory. Eric Hardinson, great last name. David Johnson or Devin Singletary. I'm ashamed of it, but it's my dilemma. Hey, man, there's some dark times right now at the running back position, man. Like, I've seen some bad teams out there that are putting out some really weird dudes. So do not be ashamed of your lineup question. I think that the play is actually David Johnson. As weird as that sounds, I think it's David Johnson. I wrote up David Johnson kind of like in my DFS article that's coming out tomorrow, just because hey, there's one less guy to feed in this offense without Mark Ingram. Now, Mark Ingram was leading that team in touches, and David Johnson was starting to see a little bit more work. Of course, it happens after I drop him. Like, this is literally happening to me all the time. I pick up a backup running back, and then I drop him before the week happens or before news breaks, and then immediately his value goes up because of an injury, because of a trade, and just every single time, like clockwork. So it's my dilemma that I have. But I would go with David Johnson. I mean, you expect there to be negative game script. He hopefully will see more carries. I know Philip Lindsay will obviously see more carries as well, but David Johnson had 13 touches last week. So, I mean, if that bumps up to 15, I don't know what Devin Singletary's role is going to be. So, David Johnson, 15 touches, I can buy it. I mean, he eventually will. I mean, we know he's a good running back, and can he bust up a big play? Sure. So, we'll see. But yeah, I would go with Dave Johnson. Vince, Robert Woods, T. Higgins, Darrell Williams, half point PPR, sit one. Sitting Robert Woods, guys. Sitting Robert Woods. Like, if you watch the Rams offense without any prior knowledge of who these guys were, which I kind of wish we could do, just like kind of forget about everything in the past and just look at this year, which probably matters more than anything that our priors, because I think our priors almost kind of hold us back to an extent from like buying into players, because we know that, like AJ Green sucked last year. It's like, well, he's good this year. Like, that's what we should be highlighting and not necessarily what he did last year. And what Robert Woods has done in past years has been really consistent, but he's just another piece of this Rams offense. And Van Jefferson is just as involved as he is. So don't let the numbers lie. Like, Van Jefferson is always running route at the same rate as Robert Woods. So, I mean, Robert Woods and Van Jefferson, not surprised we all see their finishes at the end, like from this point on, be very, very close at the end of the year, with Cooper Kupp just like friggin' on the moon. But I'm going to say Robert Woods there. I'm not fading T. Higgins as 16 targets from last week, and Darrell Williams is a running back that plays on a theoretically good offense. He's still the bell cow. The Giants are not a good defense, so I will still go with Darrell Williams. Alfredo, Shepard, or Damian Williams in the flex. I'll go with not Damian. I mean, you can't play Damian Williams. I mean, he's backup. He's a backup, so I'll go with Sterling Shepard. I think Kelly Herbert's the guy. Like, why would the Bears go away from Herbert? He's been so good. He rushed for 100 yards against the Bucks as a rookie. Nobody does that. So, yeah. Sorry, Damian. Well, sorry, not sorry. Brian S. Full point PPR. Edmonds or Gage for the flex. Oh, my God. Layup, guys. Layup. I love the questions that I feel really good about, and then the ones that I'm, really torn on. I'm just I don't know what to do. This one's easy for me. Going with Chase Edmonds. Again, great matchup this week. Russell Gage only ran around 50% of Matt Ryan's dropbacks last week. Obviously caught the long touchdown, but I don't think that's sustainable. I mean, next week could be Calvin Ridley that catches that touchdown, so not necessarily into Gage. Felipe Perez, help with a 2-piece. Okay, this guy really needs help. Should I drop Allen Robinson for Renfro? No. So number one, Renfro's on a bye week, so you adding him doesn't really make a difference unless somebody dropped him. Allen Robinson, I would keep on your roster at least till the trade deadline. I tweeted something out that was funny. It has 1,000 views on Twitter or whatever, likes, retweets. It got my euphoria up and really good because of social media. So I actually wrote earlier in the week to drop Allen Robinson. Then I kind of rethought it and decided you want to keep him probably because he could get traded. He's a free agent after this year, impending free agent. So, and his contract talks with the Bears heading into this season were not they franchise tagged him, and he was like, I want to stay here and get a long-term deal. But so, yeah, Robinson could get traded. So, and if he lands somewhere awesome, you're oh, sick, this is great. So I would not trade Allen Robinson or not drop him. We'd try to go one more week. If he's on the Bears at the end of Tuesday, then yeah, I would say move off of him. And yeah, you could probably make that move because Renfro will still be on the waiver wire probably because he's on bye week. So I don't think that he's going to necessarily get a ton of action and run from people trying to pick people up. All right, so starts here. Going to go away from the questions for a short moment. We'll be back, but I want to talk about some of my starts for this week. So Matt Ryan, quarterback, Atlanta Falcons. He is the poster boy of my article over on pff.com. And I just think that he's been really, really good over the past couple of weeks. So extremely efficient last 3 weeks or last 3 games he's played. So 23.7 fantasy points per game. And he's actually been PFF's number 1 graded passer, 93.0 PFF passing grade. So it's kind of encompassing all the things you want. He's good in fantasy and good in real life. So those things are very, very predictive of future success that you're doing both things. So I think that Matt Ryan is in a good spot. Carolina has not been very good over the last couple of, they've kind of been exposed when they've played some tougher offenses. So a lot of the second most fantasy points to quarterbacks over the last 4 weeks. And Matt Ryan's got all of his toys. He's got Kyle Pitts, who's breaking out all over the place. He's got Ridley back. Russell Gage is back. He's got all these guys that he's making a little plays with. So we were concerned about how Matt Ryan would play without Julio, and it looked bleak early on. But since Kyle Pitts has kind of stepped up, Matt Ryan's been playing much, much better. So I think that he's in a good spot here this week. Carson Wentz is the other quarterback I think is viable, probably a streaming option. Again, with my starts and sits, I try not to just talk about, here are the top 12 quarterbacks, start these guys. Because I think for the most part, if you're starting, the studs across you're starting Jalen Hurts, of course, and Dak Prescott, guys that are basically matchup proof. So Carson Wentz is a guy, if were riding Lamar Jackson, for example, like you need a streaming quarterback. I think that Carson Wentz makes a ton of sense. So the Tennessee Titans defense, it's not been great. I know they shut down the Chiefs. I think that's really more of a fluke than them being this elite defense. I wouldn't necessarily say that they're going to shut down every offense they play, because through 7 weeks they've allowed the fifth most fantasy points to the quarterback position. And Wentz has been really good in fantasy this year, or at least he's been consistent. Let me rephrase. He's been very consistent this year in fantasy. So he scored at least 17 fantasy points in all but one of his 7 starts this year. Of course, that came against the Titans. And over the past 4 games, he's actually the quarterback 14 in fantasy with 20.4 fantasy points scored per game. He also ranks 3rd in the NFL in passer rating over the last 4 weeks. So I think that Carson Wentz is a solid streaming option. I mean, he put up like 17 fantasy points in a monsoon. In a bomb cyclone, he was able to get there for you in fantasy. So I think that he's in a good spot here against the Titans defense to put up some solid production. Running back, Myles Gaskin, Miami Dolphins, probably one of the most frustrating players, probably not named Brandon Ayuk, to roster in fantasy this year, except he actually has had a couple good games here and there. And I think it's just a volume play. Like, that's really what you're looking for with Myles Gaskin. I get that the matchup isn't necessarily great against the Buffalo Bills, but what do we learn from watching Khalil Herbert get volume and score fantasy points against the Bucs defense? Is that volume is king in fantasy football. That's what's going to score fantasy points at the running back position. And without Malcolm Brown, with him on IR now, that's where we've seen Myles Gaskin have an uptick in touches in this offense. So in Gaskin's 3 games played this year without Malcolm Brown, or at least where he didn't play more than a 30% snap share, he's averaged 16.5 expected fantasy points per game and 14 touches per game. So expected fantasy points per game is something that we use at pff.com. It's basically looking at where the player earned their touches, where they were seeing targets, and basically is creating a point for weighing the opportunity that the player had. So it's more predictive than just like running off like regular fantasy points, because that's just summarizing what happened. Where expected fantasy points is, hey, like, based on the opportunities they got, this is how many points they should have scored. So if the opportunities stay or increase, like I think that they will without Malcolm Brown, he should be scoring around 16.5 fantasy points, 14 touches per game. You're going to want to start that in your lineup, even in a tough matchup. Obviously, Gaskin's highlights are in the passing game, and that's what you kind of think would happen in this game. Miami's probably going to have to play from behind. So that plays into Myles Gaskin's strengths as a receiver out of the backfield. So I think that he makes a ton of sense here. Kenneth Gainwell, I think, is a nice plug-and-play option at the running back. I don't think that he's like really a great flex option necessarily. I think there are some receivers you could probably play over Kenneth Gainwell, but running back is tough, and you need running back. And a running back that's going to see 6 or 7 targets is something that I want a part of in my lineup. Again, he's playing the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions are not a good defense. They've actually allowed the 4th most fantasy points to running backs this season, and the league's highest passer rating, 139.2 to opposing running backs this season. So Kenneth Gainwell, good start, not necessarily a slam dunk. Boston Scott and Jordan Howard are going to work in on carries, which we don't necessarily get too concerned about, because it's like, okay, sick, like take the carries inside the 20s, like where it doesn't matter. They've used Gainwell near the end zone. They hit him on a pivot route in the end zone last week while Miles Sanders was actually still playing. Gainwell's the guy that they've been used most as a receiver. So honestly, I think that he's just kind of like, you should kind of just view him as like another wide receiver, like the wide receiver 2 for the Eagles, basically, in a good matchup against the Lions that you can play in your running back slot. So I think there's some upside there with him. Don't know how many carries he's going to get. He's explosive, though. He's good. The pass catching is really why you're playing Kenneth Gainwell. So I think that he makes a lot of sense in PPR format. Standard leagues, maybe a little more fringy. Not nearly as excited because I don't know how many carries he's going to get, and I doubt that he gets goal line work. Boston Scott got the goal line touches last week. We see Jalen Hurts get goal line touches all the time. And then Jordan Howard has basically just like been a goal line guy. That's basically all he's been the last couple of years, whether it be Miami or Philadelphia. So I doubt we see Kenny Gainwell unless he breaks off a big run, which is always in game against the Detroit Lions. It's always very, very possible. I would say that Gainwell is a solid PPR option. And then my last guy, so T. Higgins, Cincinnati Bengals. I know it was tough last week to see him get 16 targets and get like 60 yards, which you're like, how is that possible? But I want to highlight the high value targets he saw. So 2 end zone targets, 3 targets of 20 plus air yards, 177 total air yards, and really, he actually caught all of his passes from Joe Burrow that were deemed catchable by PFF. So PFF looks at catchable passes and catchable throws, and that's how we evaluate players when we do the grading. So T. Higgins' grade last week, you'd think, oh man, like his completion rate was like under 50%. Like, why would he grade really well? He still did grade really well because he caught all of his catchable passes. The only passes he didn't catch were the ones that were either way over his head or out of bounds, so he couldn't do anything about them. So I think T. Higgins, man, he's led the team in target share over the last 3 weeks. It has not been Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase, freak, obviously. He's just breaking all efficiency models. I posted a TikTok the other day about him breaking away from those Ravens. Where one of the Ravens was regression, one of them was a rookie wall, one of them was drops. He just broke away out from all of them and scored a touchdown. So I think T. Higgins is in a really good spot. Again, the Jets own PFF's worst coverage or 6th worst coverage grade this year. If you look at fantasy points against, you're going to see, oh man, the Jets are a good defense against receivers, and that's true, but it's really because they're just giving up so many points to running backs that it looks like they don't give up a lot of points to receivers, because you can only give up so many fantasy points. I mean, the Jets are trying to give up as many as they can, and they're just giving them out like freebies, like here's some fantasy points for you, but they're not a good defense anywhere on the field. So if T. Higgins is continuing to see the most targets in his offense, which he has over the last 3 weeks, and which he has basically done anytime he's been healthy, I think he's going to be productive. So I like T. Higgins in DFS. I like T. Higgins in season-long leagues. Obviously, you're starting Jamar Chase, and you're not starting Tyler Boyd because he's not getting any targets. He's really fallen to the wayside in terms of target share this year. So I will continue to pound the table for not Tyler Boyd, for T. Higgins. All right, let's get back to the questions here. But first, as always, got to make sure I hydrate myself, or else it gets all dry up in the throat. All right, so TXDK. Oh, wait, here we go. TXDK, Sutton or Damian Harris flex. That's close. I'm going to go with Damian Harris. Again, I just love the matchup against the Chargers. I mean, Sutton has a great matchup as well, but there is a slight concern about where the targets will fall with Jerry Jeudy coming back. So if Jerry Jeudy wasn't coming back, probably would just be like, yeah, Sutton all the way. But Damian Harris is way too good of a spot here against the Chargers, so I'm going to definitely play him over Courtland Sutton. Carlos, hello, Andrew. Would you start Chuba Hubbard, Khalil Herbert, or Elijah Mitchell at flex? Yeah, this is definitely a really close one for me. Well, those guys, I'm pretty sure I have ranked very, very close to each other. And I actually have them all back to back to back. And earlier in the week, I would have said Elijah Mitchell. I still think that he's a solid start this week. But I'm just looking at, all 3 rookie running backs. It's really weird. Like day 3 rookie running backs. So I think that you actually want to look at the talent profiles here and like the offenses in general. And I mean, Khalil Herbert's been the best of all 3. Like he's been the better one of all 3 of those guys. Now, Khalil Herbert has delivered the best fantasy performances. He's been, Chuba Hubbard has gotten to work, but he's not been great as a pass catcher. Herbert has been great as a pass catcher. So yeah, I'm going with Herbert. I have them like I said, ranked back to back to back. Herbert 19, Mitchell 20, Hubbard 21. So I'm going with Khalil Herbert. And I recently moved him up. I had Mitchell a little bit higher, but then I was like, they're in such close situations. The matchups are all kind of like pretty similar to each other. So yeah, I would go with Khalil Herbert in that case. Family function, Seattle running back. Should I drop Alex Collins for Rashad Penny or hold on to both? They tried to get Rashad Penny going last week and he just wasn't good. So, Alex Collins got the touches. So I know the snap share wasn't great, but Alex Collins was still the starting running back. So it seems like he's the guy. I would not want to hold on to both of them. If you have both of them, it's tough because you're hoping they don't shift. If you need this roster spot, yeah, I would try to drop Penny, but I'm definitely not dropping Collins because he's the starter right now. Maybe try to trade Collins, I would say, unless you need him to start running back, and then hope that Penny does take over, and then you have 2 starting running backs. Because you're kind of hedging yourself a little bit by having both of them, and you're kind of limiting yourself because you're not going to start Penny unless Collins, or vice versa. So, yeah, I would drop Penny, but I would probably try to trade Collins, probably the move. Kevin F. Flex position, full point PPR. Chuba Hubbard, Michael Carter, Laviska Shenault, or Dearness Johnson. I'm going to go with Hubbard here. Again, I know I talked about Herbert a little bit, liking him a little bit more, but Hubbard's still the main guy in that backfield. He has more touch potential than Michael Carter. Shenault's got a good matchup, but again, Jacksonville, It could be a Jamal Agnew week. Who knows? It could be Marvin Jones week. We have no idea what's going to happen. So, and Dearness Johnson, I don't think he's going to. I don't know what his role is going to be at all. Like, could he take on Kareem Hunt's role? Sure. Or could it just be a Nick Chubb show against Pittsburgh? Maybe. So, I'll go with Chubb Hubbard. Trust the process. Chase the volume. Pandito Jr. Hopkins. Oh my God, no. Pandito Jr. Question. Hopkins, DJ Moore, Lamb. Man, I love these kinds of questions because I'm the DeAndre Hopkins hater for the most part. Not to say that I'm proud of that, but DJ Moore, Lamb. Yeah, sorry. Like, Hopkins has not been a guy I've ranked inside my top 12 since like week 3 because his target share has not been nearly as high. They're spreading the ball out. He's banged up. Short week. They don't need him. As weird as that sounds. They can win with the other guys. So I will fade DeAndre Hopkins. Go with DJ Moore and CeeDee Lamb. Deacon. Hey, Andrew. Good morning. Should I start Gaskin or Boston Scott? I talked about Myles Gaskin as a start. So, yeah, I'm going to start Myles Gaskin. He should potentially flirt with 15 touches in this game. Boston Scott, again, no idea what his role is going to be. Could be a decent play against the Lions, but he's going to split. He's not going to see as much pass work as Kenneth Gainwell. Jordan Howard's going to work in. Remember, guys, we weren't like happy with Miles Sanders at all this year. Like playing him in any matchup. Like he wasn't good ever, except for like 1 week against Atlanta. So now you're adding in all these other players to the mix. Yeah, it's going to be tough to get behind anyone that's not probably Kenneth Gainwell, who's been like a top 36 running back playing with Miles Sanders. So that's why he's a start. The other guys, not so much. All right. Let's go into the sits here now as we go away from the questions for just a short while. All right, so sits. I'm going to start with Tua Tagovailoa. I know he's been really, really good over the last couple of weeks, but all right, he's played really, really bad defenses. Like he's played Jacksonville, he's played Atlanta. Like the 2 worst defenses probably that you want. He's delivered. 25.4 fantasy points per game. Love it. Career best PFF passing grade in back-to-back weeks. So you're really happy about that. But it's just the Bills are not that defense. The Bills are the best defense, basically, against quarterbacks this year, allowing the fewest fantasy points per game. And I'm not willing to put Tua into a tier where he is an elite quarterback, where I feel great about starting him every single week, no matter what. Like he's not reached that level yet. He's not reached that status. So I will be putting Tua on my bench this week. Jacoby Myers, wide receiver. I do not like him. I don't like his matchup this week. I think that with Myers, it's, he's had a lot of good matches the last couple weeks. Hasn't really done much. 22% target share over the last 4 weeks. Really, really good. But there's just, where's the upside? Like, where's the beef with Jacoby Myers? Like, come on. Like, we need upside with our Patriots wide receivers, and he's just not getting it. Like, they are using the other guys. Bourne is making plays. Elson Aguilar is making some plays here and there. They're getting the tight ends more involved. And the Chargers, like I mentioned, like that's why I love Damien Harris. The Chargers are like, hey, run the ball on us. Like, do whatever you want. We're going to protect against the pass because we know from an expected value standpoint, we would rather have you run the football than throw the football on us. And the Patriots are going to be like, all right, sick. Like, we'll average 6 yards per carry with Damien Harris. Like, let's go. So Los Angeles ranks 28th in fantasy points allowed to running backs. Good for Damien Harris. Number 1 allowed to fantasy wide receivers. So Jacoby, look, you never want to bench a guy that's seeing a lot of volume, but Jacoby, this is going to be the week Jacoby catches a touchdown, of course, but I don't like this as much for him in this spot. Tyler Boyd. I talked about Tyler Boyd last week. I called him a start because I liked the matchup. I thought the matchup would get him volume, and it did to an extent. He had 7 targets, which was like his highest since like week 4. But unfortunately, he had like 4 catches, and it's just not good. Like he's just not getting enough targets. Like he's still being out targeted by Higgins and by Jamar Chase. He's the third guy. They're not throwing the ball enough, and this game is not a up-tempo game. Like the Bengals can take their time. It's like a slow death to the New York Jets. They can just do whatever they want, and it's probably just gonna be like 80-yard touchdowns to Chase, to Higgins, Joe Mixon get 30 points, and then Tyler Boyd's gonna be like, well, that was another bad week for me. So just a 14% target share the last 3 games. And then, the Jets don't allow like points to receivers, and it's because teams are just running the football on them. So I don't think there's a lot to work with here. I think that obviously we're going to see one of the 2 Bengals receivers like probably have a good week, and I'm betting it's going to be Higgins or Chase and not Tyler Boyd. So I'm probably out on Boyd as an option this week. And Allen Robinson, oh man, talked about him at the beginning of the show. I went back to him last week too. I was like, hey, do you like the matchup? And nope, did not work out. So Allen Robinson, you got to show it to me, man, or you got to get traded to a different team because right now we saw The Bears have a career high in passing attempts for Justin Fields. Did not matter. Allen Robinson, 16 yards on 4 targets. Blech, gross. Just can't do it. Can't do it. So, I mean, no one in this offense, none of these pass catchers are really enticing at all whatsoever. He has 0 top 45 finishes this year. 0. In the top 45. So, he's not even if he finishes like a wide receiver 2, you're just like, oh my God, this is amazing. I tweeted out earlier this week, what do I want to be for Halloween? I want to be something like super scary. I'll just be Allen Robinson's fantasy football finishes. That's terrifying. Outside the top 20, outside the top 45 every single week, just not good. But I would say hold on to him, hold him on your bench, and pray he gets traded to the Chiefs. Just somewhere good where there's a quarterback. Maybe they put Dalton back in the game. I don't know. But right now it's looking bleak for one Mr. Allen. Maybe someone gets hurt this week. I don't know. I never want to wish an injury on someone, but someone gets hurt, star receiver. Hey, let's get maybe he goes to the Giants. Honestly, that wouldn't be that bad. Go to the Giants. All their receivers are hurt. Let's get Danny Dimes another weapon. Right. And then last but not least, Zach Ertz, tight end for the Arizona Cardinals. Look, it's just a matter of, okay, he was really good in his first week with the with the Cardinals. Caught a long touchdown. That was so out of character for Ertz, catching long yards after the catch touchdown, something he's never done ever. Every single year we've watched him play, he's always been a volume receiver at tight end. So I just think that getting carried away, just putting him in as a starting tight end, ECR has him as a top 12 guy. And I'm not, I have him on one roster and I'm not trying to start him. I don't want to necessarily drop him. I do want to see how things play out a little bit longer. Maybe he runs more routes, but I'm not really to buy into him just, he's a locked and loaded guy, tight end 1 for the rest of the season. When this Cardinals offense we've seen, when you chase the guy who scored the touchdown the week previously, you get burned. It was Rondale Moore week. Oh, it's Christian Kirk. Oh, it's AJ Green. And then you trace that guy and then he doesn't do anything the next week. That's been the story because they spread out the ball so much in this offense. And Ertz is just another piece of it. So because it's tight end, because the position is so bad, then okay, I get why Ertz has a little bit more to offer than some of those other receivers that are kind of on waiver wires, off waiver wires kind of here and there. But, the matchup was also really good last week. Houston is the worst team against tight ends this year. The worst. So that's why I felt good about starting him without even seeing him play down with the Arizona Cardinals. But this week, Green Bay is okay against tight ends. It's not anything special necessarily. So, yeah, I just don't know if we see the same kind of production from Ertz. He wasn't targeted a lot. 59% routes run per dropback rate. That was the same as Max Williams. Would you be, trying to get Max Williams into your lineup? Because that's basically what Zach Ertz did, was what Max Williams was doing. And we weren't trying to get him. Now, Zach Ertz, yeah, probably better tight end than Max Williams. But, we were already right off Zach Ertz after last year. So maybe it's just the fountain of youth that the Arizona Cardinals has come. AJ Green is good again. Now Zach Ertz is good again. Maybe I'm wrong here, but I think there are some better streaming tight ends you can get off the waiver wire this week. Tyler Conklin, I think, is a guy I like a little bit more. I think that he's actually who I'm starting over Ertz in one of my leagues. So yeah, we will see it played on Thursday night. And if I'm wrong, then Zach Ertz, and come after me then. Come after me, Zach Ertz. All right. So that's going to wrap it up for the sits. Let's get back to the questions here. Got about 15 minutes left, so I want to make sure I get as many questions as I can answered for y'all. And also, again, all the starts and sits over on pff.com. I think I've tweeted out the link. I've either retweeted it. So again, if you want to read the article yourself, get all my intel from this week of just putting it all out into the world. I'm on Twitter at Andrew Erickson _. And yeah, let's get into these questions. But as always, hydrate, people. Very, very important. Okay. All right. Heather Mendez, Moss or Khalil Herbert? Khalil Herbert. Volume is king. And Moss, yes, he's starting to be the primary runner for the Bills, but Herbert is still the guy. So I'm gonna go with Herbert there. Muck C Guy, Keenan Allen, Patterson, Elijah Mitchell, pick 2. I'm going to go with Patterson, Elijah Mitchell. I'm really buying into what Liz Losa said yesterday on the FantasyPros podcast about how the Patriots are going to try to take away Keenan Allen. And if you actually look at Keenan Allen's game logs against the Patriots, he's played 3 games against the Patriots. Not good. I think he's actually had 1 good game in the playoffs against the Patriots, but 3 regular season games he's been held in check for the most part. So I'll stick Keenan Allen there. I know Mitchell looks good with him being the primary bell cow for the 49ers, and Patterson is on fire, man. Like, Patterson's taking over the Atlanta backfield. Good matchup against the Panthers. The Panthers are not good against wide zone. I took the over on Patterson's rushing prop earlier in this week. I liked it at 53. Woke up today, it was at 44. I was like, oh my God, this is great. So, yeah, there you go. Kyle C. Oh, wait, excuse me. Berto. Great name. Calvin Ridley or Michael Pittman for wide receiver 2. Man, I love Michael Pittman this week, but I have to go with my guy, Calvin Ridley. Let me just check the ranks to make sure that I'm not lying to you. I like them both a lot this week. I know Ridley's been kind of disappointing, but I'm going to go with Calvin Ridley. As much as I like Michael Pittman, I know that there is a slight risk with his profile where if T.Y. Hilton just comes back and for some reason just takes away the targets, which he just does super frustratingly all the time, that's possible. So I actually have Pittman 16, Ridley 18. I would say that Ridley's probably the safer guy. He has a higher target share. So I will go with Calvin Ridley there. But Pittman is also a really good start. All right, Kyle C. Full point PPR, Jarvis Landry or AJ Green. I'm going AJ Green, man. Everyone hates AJ Green, and I was one of the guys that did not like him a lot either. But you got to give credit where credit's due, and he's playing really well right now. So if you're playing DFS tonight, showdown slate, play some AJ Green because I guarantee he's not going to be played a lot by a lot of people because people just don't like to play him. Even though he has a great role in the Arizona Cardinals offense, he's the number one receiver on the outside, and DeAndre Hopkins is banged up. So AJ Green, I'm probably going to have to move up my rankings actually. So what a world we live in. Vince, Robert Woods, T. Higgins, Darrell Williams, half point PPR, sit 1. Yeah, sit Robert Woods. I feel like I've had this question before. I'm not sure. Maybe it's just a common question, but Vince, if you missed out when I talked about earlier, Robert Woods, he just doesn't have a great role in the Rams offense. Yeah, he plays in a high-powered offense, so that's kind of like giving him value, but it's Cooper Kupp and everybody else kind of just falls to the wayside. So Robert Woods is not featured. He obviously can catch a touchdown, which is why he's like still giving like wide receiver 2 value, but Higgins is getting the targets and Darrell Williams is starting running back against the Giants run defense. So yeah, you want those guys. So again, remind everyone, like the video, subscribe to the Fantasy Pros YouTube channel. If you want to join the chat and get exclusive content all season long. Gio, Eagles D or Cardinals D? I'm going to go with the Cardinals defense. Chandler Jones is playing tonight. I'm not really super afraid of the Green Bay Packers. And the Eagles defense just is not good. Like I played them last week thinking that they would be a decent play, and they just were terrible. So I'll go with the Cardinals. JJ Watt, like, missing is not a huge deal. Like, he wasn't generating a lot of pressure. He was better against the run, actually. Frank Allen. So Lamar's on bye. My options for quarterback are Trevor Lawrence, Taylor Heineke, or Jimmy G. Who should I start? I would start of those guys. I think I have Taylor Heineke ranked the highest. And it's because Taylor Heineke just, like, plays with so much passion and fire. He's just, I'm going Heineke there. I've been rolling with Heineke in a super flex league this year. And, last time I was like really high on Lawrence when he was playing like the Dolphins. I was probably too aggressive on him. Quarterback, it's so important that you factor in efficiency. It just matters a lot, especially the only difference being with running quarterbacks. And right now, Heineke is like poor man's Lamar Jackson. Like, the guy almost rushed for 100 yards last week. So, and he should have scored way more many points than he scored the week prior. So I'll go with Heineke. Tim Smith, Jerry Jeudy, T. Higgins, Amari Cooper, or Chase Claypool. Pick 2. All right. I think I'm going to go with, so T. Higgins definitely is going to be one of those guys, and probably Amari Cooper. Yeah. Jerry Jeudy, yes, I think he's a really good play, but he's coming back from an injury, so there is a scenario where that's not ideal if something happens or whatever. And then Claypool, it's Big Ben. Claypool's also been like on the injury report this week, so I think that T. Higgins, Cooper make the most sense here. Fantasy Pro or King CBC, Gronk or Seals Jones, full point PPR. If Gronk is playing, you're playing him, no matter what. Before he was hurt, he was literally averaging more fantasy points per game than anybody else. So you're playing him. Seals Jones is obviously a great alternative, and it helps you that he's playing in the late window. So I like what you're thinking here, King CBC. Like, you are the king for thinking this way. That they both play in the late game, so you have a backup plan. But yeah, you're gonna play Gronk if he's active. Ghost Music, Zach Moss or Waddle. Flex. Going with Zach Moss. Was T, Joe Burrows, or Kirk Cousins? I'm going to go with Joe Burrow. He's playing the Jets. They suck. And yeah, I think it's really that simple. I think Kirk Cousins maybe has a higher ceiling. Actually, no, I'm checking the ranks. Got to keep myself honest here. I actually have Kirk Cousins ranked one spot ahead of Joe Burrow, and it's a bet on game script and game flow. The Jets and Bengals are not going to be in a shootout game. That's not happening. Like Joe Burrow probably has like 3 touchdowns, 250 yards passing. You feel good. Solid game. But Kirk Cousins has a chance to like explode against Dallas because this is a game that's going to go back and forth. 2 teams that are like really high paced in offensive plays per game. So I think Kirk Cousins has a way higher ceiling. So I would actually go with Kirk. Calvin Williams. Start Waddle over Javonte and flex, full point PPR. Yeah, I would start him. We don't know if Javonte Parker's like playing yet, and I don't like the matchup a lot for Waddle with the Bills. I think the Bills are actually good against slot receivers. I'm actually like leaning towards a Waddle under. Just need to like know Devontae Parker's playing or not to like help like justify like making the play. But I would probably go with Jalen Waddle here. Daniel Jones or Aaron Rodgers. I would still go with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, it's weird that, and this is from Sam Swag. It's weird that Aaron Rodgers has like he's been really efficient without Devontae Adams, and a lot of it has to do with touchdowns. Like he's not a better quarterback without Devontae, but he's been able to make it work without Adams in the lineup before. The Cardinals are going to put up points against Packers. I think that Rodgers is good enough. Again, efficiency matters. He's a good quarterback in real life. So I think that he comes out and plays well enough. Daniel Jones is much more of a wild card. I mean, Daniel Jones doesn't have half of his weapons either. So if you're going to downgrade Rodgers, which I've done in my rankings, like he's a fringe quarterback 1, then you're going to downgrade Daniel Jones as well because he's possibly playing without any weapons as well. Gooner Boy, Keenan Allen or Khalil Herbert, half point PPR. I'm going to go with Khalil Herbert there. Pep, is KJ Osborne for the Vikes worth a stash for the long haul? I think so. I think that he makes a lot of sense from like a handcuff wide receiver perspective. If anything happens to Thielen or Jefferson, it seems like he's going to fill in the role like 1-for-1 basically and get those targets. He's already blown up in a bunch of different spots. So yeah, I think he makes some sense. You're never going to know when to start him though. So that's kind of what you have to know is that you're all going to just basically keep him on your bench for the entire. I think I'd both like him more if I had Justin Jefferson or Adam Thielen on my team. JT, Mike Williams or CD. I'm going CD. He's a monster, guys. He's so good. So good. I have CeeDee Lamb ranked 6 this week. Mike Williams is 11. So I'm going to go with CD. Adrian Rodriguez. Hey, Andrew, full point PPR. Start Chuba or Gainwell? I'm going to go with Chuba. Multiplayer. Is it worth stashing Marlon Mack? 100%. Yeah, you should definitely stash Marlon Mack. He's going to get traded to some team, maybe the Ravens. And you could have a starting running back by next week. So you'd feel great about that. FF, what's your view on Michael Thomas's return? I think that he'll probably be like a wide receiver 2, depending on his health. I mean, the Saints receivers have just been pretty terrible and unusable this year, so I can't imagine like anyone is going to take away from his target share. I mean, Marquez Callaway's never really kind of panned out. Deontay Harris is hurt, and yeah, so he's probably going to be solid. Remington Hoot, as long as he's healthy, that's just really the big question. Remington Hoot, Mike Evans or DJ Moore or DK Metcalf? DJ Moore. Maz, hey Andrew, half point PPR, pick one, AJ Green, T.Y. Hilton, or Pollard. AJ Green. Can't believe I'm saying people to say AJ Green and start him, but yeah, I'm going to start AJ Green over those guys. Serge Rodo, thoughts on Claypool? I think he's a back-end wide receiver 2 this week. We see the 22% target share whenever there's been a guy missing from like the top tier of Steelers receivers. So whether it's been Deontay, whether it's been Chase Claypool or Juju Smith-Schuster, those are the plays that have been kind of happening. Question from friend of the show, Kyle Yates. Robert Tonyan, a top 15 tight end this week. Yes, he is a top 15 tight end this week. I think Tonyan is in a good spot to pick up the slack left behind by Devontae Adams. We saw him last year score 3 touchdowns in a game that Devontae Adams didn't play. I'm not promising that for this week, but he is still running a route on 70% plus of Aaron Rodgers dropbacks. He obviously had a big game last week. And I've been the Robert Tonyan basically hater on the FantasyPros football podcast all season long. And of course, last week I did not list him as a sit. And of course, he had a great game. So we're vibing. Me and Tonyan, me and Big Bob, we're on the same level here. So I listed him as a start this week. So yeah, he's going to go off this week. So Robert Tonyan, Big Bob. I'm sorry, Big Bob over Zach Ertz. So I know ECR disagrees with me there, but hey, sometimes you got to go against the grain to win the money. It's not about the money. It's about, it's fantasy. All right. David V, Daryl Williams or Alex Collins. Going to go Daryl, Matt Frazier, Pittman, Woods, Khalil Herbert. Going with Michael Pittman, Raisin, half PPR. I'm not sure if that's just the name of the person or the league, whatever. McLaurin or Deontay. This one's close for me. Yeah, I'm going Deontay. Deontay has an insane target rate per route run this year. It's basically Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams, Deontay Johnson. Like, he's a target machine. And I know people don't like Big Ben, but Big Ben's he's getting it done. He's getting it done for his receivers, and there's no juju. So I like Deontay Johnson. Amani Jones. Hey, Andrew, would you trade Kamara for Hopkins and Mark Andrews? No, I would not. It's not like Hopkins is not this alpha receiver anymore. He's not this top 5 guy. And I think that you can still get him for that kind of deal. So I would keep Kamara. Scott G, Kirk Cousins or Justin Herbert. But I'm leaning towards potentially changing my rank. Scott G, make sure you follow me on Twitter. Check the rankings. I'm going to go with Justin Herbert for right now, but I do like Kirk Cousins a lot. Like, I may move Kirk Cousins up my rankings a slight bit. Herbert's matchup against Patriots, looked at some of the scheme stuff. Just kind of concerned about it, but I'll go with Herbert right now, but it's close. Midwest Monster Hunters. Andrew, T. Higgins or Darrell Williams for flex full point PPR. Going with T. Higgins. Let's go. All the way. Micah Richardson, A.J. Brown, Godwin, or C. Pat. Sit one. Oh, my God. I guess I'm sitting C. Pat. I mean, A.J. Brown is playing the Colts. Their defense is not good against receivers. Godwin, there's probably not going to be Antonio Brown, and Godwin just saw 11 targets last week, so I'm going to go with those guys. Chris Rose, start one, Elijah Mitchell or Fournette. Got to go Fournette. Like, I know the matchup's not good, guys, against the Saints, but I don't care. Like, Fournette's seeing this just crazy usage. Like, I know that he's ranked probably outside the top 12 in ECR. I have him 13. So, yeah, I guess I'm outside the top 12 on him, too, but I didn't want to move him down. I, had to begrudgingly move him down because he's just seeing crazy usage. And when you're involved in the passing game like Fournette is, you aren't subject to matchups nearly as much. So, I think Fournette's in a good spot. Nemesis. Hey, Andrew, risk Barkley / Booker or go with Elijah Mitchell? Go with Elijah Mitchell. I don't think that the drop-off is so significant or the difference. Like, if Barkley plays, he's going to probably be limited. So, yeah, I go with Mitchell. Gareth Taylor, or Mitchell's a good alternative. So, I think, yeah, I would go with him. Gareth Taylor, Waddle or P. Ryan, flex standard. Going with standard? Maybe P. Ryan. It's kind of like a galaxy brain play. If there's no Devontae Parker, then I'd go with Waddle. But if Parker plays, yeah, I'll go P. Ryan. Matthew Hoy, should I flex Christian Kirk or Alex Collins? Full point PPR. I'll go with Alex Collins. Last one. Trone Force pick 3. Full point PPR. Lockett, Brandon Cooks, Julio Jones, Marvin Jones, Damian Harris. Pick 3. Going out with a freaking banger. Love it from Trone Force. Pick 3. Okay, so not Lockett. No, not starting him. So you're starting Damian Harris, number 1, right? So we narrowed it down. Starting Julio, number 2, and we're probably starting Cooks. Going with Cooks. So those are the 3 guys. So Cooks, Jones, Damian Harris. All right, that's going to do it for me, guys. Again, I am on Twitter at Andrew Erickson _. You can find all of my work over at pff.com. The Start Situm article is up. The DFS cheat sheet is coming out tomorrow. And all my articles you can find over on the website and my author page. Again, if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me on Twitter, also on TikTok at Andrew Erickson _. So enjoy the game tonight. I know we won't have Devontae Adams. DeAndre Hopkins is banged up, but keep an eye out for Chase Edmonds. And of course, Big Bob Tonyan, when he catches a touchdown, I will be hollering at the moon in excitement for Big Bob. So again, thank you all for tuning in. Appreciate you. And we'll be back next week. So stay tuned until then.